Hi guys, welcome back to It's a Quake, the platform where we engage the youth on topics that relate to them. I'm your host Pinky Kuridas, so enjoy the session.
It's a Quake.
Today in studio, we are joined by lovely panelists that, of course, joined us in on the conference that took place on the 12th of August, and I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Susie Shafeni and I am a political analyst.
Hi, Susie.
Hey.
My name is Simon Hadula, so I'm the founder of Hadula Charity Foundation.
Hi, Mr. Hadula. Hi. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I am Anna Momo David and I am from the Internet Society Namibia chapter.
Lovely Miss Anna is joining us in studio. Now, this year's discussion was on digital inclusion. But before we get into it, I just want to ask one question. How was the conference this year?
Very electrifying.
Electrifying. Oh, that's a nice word. Electrifying. How was it, Miss Susie?
It was lit.
It was lit. We are staying on top of it. We are Gen Z. Miss Anna, how was the conference?
Inclusive, to be honest. Everybody was represented and I loved the audience.
Inclusive definitely is the word because the theme, as I mentioned, is digital inclusion for youth participation. Now, the question I have for you guys, obviously there were different things that were discussed, but the main thing was digital inclusion, which refers to the concept of ensuring that all individuals, no matter their background, their social grounding, whatever, has the access they need to information, Now, is the access to this information, is it inclusive? Is it affordable? And who has the access to this information? That is a very important question I had. It is, of course, for the youth, but who else needs this inclusion of information?
I think for me, because digital infrastructure is such a expensive endeavor to establish and maintain, I think for me, the people that I really emphasize on are those in rural areas, young people living in rural and remote areas. Do they have access to the internet and to internet infrastructure? I don't know. What do you think?
For me, I think Windhoek is mostly ahead of other places because I always talk about the inclusion is coming at the extent of excluding villages. Let's talk about the digital infrastructure, like Susie said, in the villages. How are those people included? Let's even talk about the basic what is needed, like network towers, data, Wi-Fi. It's not there. So I think we are just moving at the pressure of the countries that are more developed than us, not knowing that for Namibia, the average speed that we are moving on, we are leaving many people behind. So the inclusion is there, but we are leaving many people behind.
Do you think it's affordability that plays a big role?
Yes, I think it's affordability. Like people have to choose now between eating and whether to buy a cell phone. So people cannot even afford the basic meal. Now, if you have a $70 as a mother, will rather subscribe to Super Away or will rather buy some food for your kids to eat. So I think affordability must be looked in. Maybe the government can intervene and say, how do we make the affordability of these digital platforms and tools so that people can equally participate? Because there is nothing, even if we say digital inclusion, but if I don't have a cell phone or I don't have the network coverage or I cannot afford data, I'm excluded.
Ms. Anna, what do you think?
I think both aspects are very good to look at. And it's not just about where you live, it's also where you come from. We spoke about Windhoek, but Windhoek has informal settlements. Just yesterday, Telecom launched a tower in Goreangab. But the network there is pathetic, right? So you have the cell phone, you have the data, but the infrastructure is another issue again. And then you look at people who are marginalized in their own communities for various reasons. How do they get included? These are questions that I feel like were asked but not really touched on. Because as much as the LGBTQI plus community would want to really engage in the digital space, how inclusive are we to allowing their conversations to flow? And then in addition to that, you look at people with disabilities, they really would have their voices heard. Where the access comes in is usually a thing of, do I really need this device? Will I have the full potential to work on it? And then you have a little bit of literacy issue that also comes into the aspects of inclusion. Because as much as I would want to TikTok, I just don't know where to start. Yeah.
Now, you made the perfect point because that touches on my next question. Digital literacy programs, such as NMT, such as the Youth Quake, that actually go out there and educate people on the, the digital world. Because at the end of the day, it's 2023. We're literally one step away from the 22nd century. What would you say is the importance of digital literacy when it comes to inclusion as a whole?
I think it is paramount to say the least. Look, if you think about the digital space as the new public commons, right? Like we are hanging out here right now, and the internet is another space where we can hang out and exist as individuals, then our ability to navigate that space knowingly is so important. It's important to know how to access things, and it is also so important to know how to protect yourself, right? Because one side is, yes, I can comment on Facebook, I can do this, I can do that, but where can't you comment? What type of links can't you touch on? And so digital literacy is so important because it encompasses so many things. It encompasses our ability to use, and also our ability to use safely and to use expansively.
This is actually something you touched on during the conference, and you mentioned polarization.
Yes.
Echo chambers, and I can't remember the last one, but I'm sure everybody that was in the class will help me out. Do you think polarization is what limits us from saying what we truly want to say on the internet?
I actually think that polarization is what causes us to say what we believe.
Okay.
But it ends up with a lot of negative consequences, right? Because if you think about polarization, it's our movement towards political extremes. So if we are young people and we're going on the internet and we're like, we want to campaign, next year is elections. When you are polarized, you do not consider the people on the other side as humans, as people with valid opinions and opinions that one needs to engage with, you see. So with polarization, the concern is the type of space that we are creating as we engage with others on the internet, and also what capacity we have to hear from other people, because democracy is a consensus building practice. It's like we must all go together into the future, not just me and my brother that believes in the one thing. Exactly. Yeah.
Master Sai, what do you think? Digital literacy.
I think it's very important. I'm like, you really need to educate people on the use of the internet. Like in the context of Namibia, young people use the internet for the wrong tool, because the internet is a tool we can use to change the world or to destroy it or to break it. But in the context of Namibia, look at the negative comments people put on the internet. We use it as a tool to show off. We use it as a tool to mock each other, but we have not realized the importance of digital literacy. So I think by equally educating the people on what needs to be commented, like on the standards when you go on Facebook, what type of content should you create? How positive can you be? So by teaching people that also, like Anna said, we cannot talk about inclusion. I can have all the money in the world, all the equipment in the world, but once I don't know which button to press, it's over between me. So we have cell phones, we have TikTok, but the population of the youth, we are using TikTok to, like, look, when you go to TikTok right now, what do you find there? People mocking each other, how to cheat on your partner, how to steal money, how to break on, just those negative things. But where is the positive thing? So I think the literacy is missing, and we must not undermine the power of digital literacy, because without it, no matter how many laptops and computers we can purchase, it will be a waste of time. But when we equally educate the people, like, use Facebook for this purpose, use Instagram for this purpose, use it to market. Like people, I remember we had a debate in school where parents were blaming internet. I said, if you go to Google, whatever you search is what will come. So you cannot blame the internet for the failure in your personal life, your career, or whatever it is. So if you go to a website, wherever the internet takes you, it means that's where you want to go. So we need to teach our children to stay away from these sites, use the website for this, use it for this. So with the digital literacy, I'm strongly confident that we are all going to move at the pace of digital technology that each and every Namibian citizen will be taking on. Because it's not just about moving at the speed of digital technology or the first industrial revolution, how can we move together, including a baby that is in the stomach, that digital technology can also include them in terms of maybe sonar scans or anything like that. So with this literacy, I strongly believe that we can take everybody along. Like it stands right now in Namibia, people are left out, and we really need to go back and take them along. Yeah.
Moving on a pace where no man is left
Exactly,
behind.
yeah.
Miss Anna, digital literacy, what do you think?
Digital literacy, I cannot compare to anything, to be honest, because the world is moving forward. The aspects of the ATI bill that are also moving forward need to be able to guide us to establish exactly what it is we want to achieve. Within the bill, it says that an institution needs to proactively provide information in a format that I understand, that the next person understands. So without the digital aspects of receiving that information, chances are I will not be able to understand
It must
exactly
be comprehensible for me.
what is being given. So it could be written out, but when I do ask for a digital copy, be it in video format, be it in audio format, or whatever, I need to be able to understand that this what I'm getting is actually what I'm looking for and can work to my benefit. And when I then go back to the bill and say, look, you were proactive in providing this for me, but it's not relevant to my status quo right now. How can this digital equipment or format that you've given me provide me the benefit that my community needs, and as well as move forward into the future with it? So these are some of the aspects that we also need to understand, that no matter how much digital literacy we have, if it is given out in a format that we don't understand, then it's useless, because not all of us are literate on the same level, and not all of us will comprehend on that level. As well as the thing of me going back to say that our different abilities for different accessibilities is also another issue.
Now, I would like to believe that this is your area of expertise, so I will look at you when I ask this question. We're going to dive into artificial intelligence, which is also something we spoke about during the conference, and Miss Anisia was there. She was heading artificial intelligence. We were sitting outside, and she was like, nobody's going inside. We're going to sit outside and enjoy the sun. Now, there's something important that she mentioned, and I decided to quote it. I have it in my notebook. She said, there's nothing that's entirely good or entirely bad, and we should do away from thinking that. Now, one thing obviously as a student, artificial intelligence and AI, this is groundbreaking for me. I'm like, I don't have to, run around doing 500 books of research, and AI is there. But do you think AI is going to be detrimental for the youth, especially when it comes to school? Because I want to say the question stems from a place of the youth. This is the first place they run to instead of doing, prior research. And the first answer you get is the one you jot down without actually knowing, is this answer true? Because you have not done any research. You have gone to AI, you've gotten an answer, you've plotted it on your research paper. Do you think moving forward it's going to be detrimental if it's not regulated?
I believe it will be detrimental, because one of the things that Susie actually spoke about is the consensus building, right? How do you build a consensus and move forward with something when you have no knowledge of it? Because one of the aspects that AI does, yes, it makes life easy for us, but where do I then start implementing what I'm putting down on paper? And how do I then comprehend and put into practice what it is? Because say, for instance, you're writing a research proposal and you've got this topic that you really need to dive deep into, right? But with the help of AI, you just managed to get 100%, and your research of professor loves it, and you've thrown it in the bag. How do you move forward from that, knowing that AI has done the most? So it does end up being detrimental because you also can't build opinions at the end of the day. And this is what is, it's something that is enshrined in our constitution. We are allowed opinions. We are allowed to express ourselves. But you're expressing yourself from a point of a computerized, digitalized comment. And the human aspects of it then gets lost. And at the same time, the knowledge span of it really suffers. So I love actually what Dr. Peters said about it, because she says that we should use it as an aid.
Yes, she did.
We should use it as an aid and not throughout, because believe it or not, there's so many aspects that we as humans look at when it comes to academic work, because you'd probably doing a research and then you'd look at the cultural aspects and various backgrounds of a particular thing, and that AI is not likely to consider. So these are the things that I feel like needs to be put into place and allow for a certain percentage that would then be allowable for academic work to be turned in, as well as just for people to actually express themselves for who they are and have that human-centered work done.
Because we're not saying don't go to AI. We're just saying regulated. Let it not be the first step that you're going to, like Ms. Peters mentioned. Let it be an aid and a guide and not your first step. Miss Susie, AI?
Listen, I really loved Prof. Peter's whole focus on AI. It was so timely and so pertinent. I think next year in January, the African Union will table its AU-AI continental strategy. And it will guide kind of our continental approach to utilizing AI. And for young people, this is so important for us to know about. It's so important for us to think about AI and think about the ways in which we can use it. Because like Anna said, but I'm paraphrasing now, it's a tool, right? It's a tool that we can use to empower ourselves. And unfortunately, it's also a tool that we can maybe use to step ourselves in the back. But as young people, it's so important for us to think about how we can use AI to change our own lives, how we can implement it in our business plans, how we can help it or use it to help us in our academic life.
Just to better ourselves.
Yes, how we can use it in agriculture, in health, and in all of these ways. So for me, I don't really have a lot to say because Anna said a lot. But what I do want to say is let us all try and think about how AI can help us, especially the young youth, people that are still in school. They are lucky they're still thinking about their future paths and stuff, what type of high value skills they can learn, whether it's programming, AI ethics, neural pathway programming, and those things, so that they can be in the forefront and so that we as Namibians can also kill it in this sector. I think we all have a very doomerist perspective on AI, and it's because we grew up on things like RoboCop. I mean, if you're a Marvel fan, Age of Ultron was literally about an AI that got upset and said,
I, Robot, and all those things.
But doomerism is not the answer. It's about regulation. It's about informed optimism, and it's really just about going into the future prepared, developing frameworks, developing personal philosophies so that we don't use these things to our detriment.
At the end of the day, these things are not going anywhere. If we choose not to use it, they are still going to be there, and we are just going to be putting ourselves or leaving ourselves behind, because it is a digitized world. Everything. I literally went home some time ago and I saw this child playing the same game we used to play, the water bubble one. And it had batteries, and it had like a man taking the thing out, and I'm like, this thing is so advanced. Back to Mr. Simon. Youth participation. It is also something that we touched on during the conference, and I believe you actually asked a question that I forgot to jot down, but I want to say this is your area of expertise. Now, do you feel the youth is discouraged or they are forced out of the democratic life by people that constantly come and say, you know what, vote for us and we're going to do this for the youth? we're going to do this for the youth. We are wanting to implement this for the youth. And at the end of the day, they fail or they just don't follow through on their promises. Do you feel that is why the youth is not encouraged to vote?
I think in the context of Namibia, I'm telling you that we have lost hope in losing hope in politics. So, first of all, there's so much confusion. Let's talk about the presidential elections. We know that the Swapo Party government has been in power for 33 years. But every time when there's a presidential election, what happens? We have more than 15 faces. Someone walks away with 0.1% of the votes. Why can't you step aside and let those votes? Look at what happened to Dr. Itola when he was an independent candidate. If it was a two-man race, probably Itola could have won. So there's so much unnecessary political parties. Because imagine how many political parties we have 21 plus registered political
all making
parties.
promises.
All making promises, and we have been all led by one person. It's just like 5 guys proposing the same girl, saying that I can make you happy, but it's still the same guy that is making the same girl happy. So we lose hope. I'm like, but you tell us that you're gonna win Elizabeth Hard, but it's just Matthews that is there. What are you not doing anything? Because you do not have the capacity. So for me, one thing I think is that we really need to revive our political participation of this, because like having a lot of political parties, it's not gonna do us anyway. We need to have a lot of political parties, but when it comes to presidential elections, we can say we take the top 2 political parties. Those presidents go head to head, toe to toe. For example, let's say in the 2024 presidential elections, if we can maybe, let's say we just have Dr. Itola there and the Swapo candidate, I'm like, it's going to be a competitive election. But now you go there, it's 15 faces, you lose hope. And the other thing is also in terms of the youth really do not know. In terms of the Namibian politics, it's not about voting for leadership. It's about, do I know you? What is in there for me? Tribalism has a detrimental effect on our political participation. Look at all the political leaders of Namibia. You will see that PDM, the top leader is Eneshero speaking. Where are they strong? You think PDM can ever win an election in Oshana, in Kavango East? Where is LPM strong? In Hartap region. So where is APP strong? Their former leader was Okavango speaking. If they are stronger, so we all don't want leaders that are there for us. Even in the political manifestos, they tell you, whoever comes from the Congress, whether you like it or not, be it your ex that comes out from that Congress, you vote for that one. So we are no more basing this on the, like in terms of leadership. So we have betrayed ourselves as Namibians on the context of fulfilling our political our constitutions and fulfilling our political desires, because now Susie came out of the Congress, but she has no political literacy or no way to drive Namibia. Because she came out of that Congress, we must vote for her. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board and really make our democracy alive, because as it stands right now, it's very dead young.
Miss Anna, you are from the Internet Society. Do you feel like there's a need to constantly and further educate the youth on political literacy, like he spoke about, and just tell them, okay, this is why you need to vote? Because at the end of the day, not voting also is a vote in itself. Do you feel with your platform and having the internet and all this access to the information that we have, that now we feel the need that it has to be comprehensible, like you mentioned before? Do you feel like there's a need to constantly educate the youth, particularly when I talk about the youth, I want to now say the 17-year-olds, the 18-year-olds. These people are fresh from high school. They don't know anything about politics. Do you feel there's a need to constantly educate them?
I believe there's a need to constantly educate them, because without that knowledge of exactly what it means to live in a democratic state, they would also not know where exactly their vote would come in. And not only that, it's also for them to understand why such an exercise would be to their benefit. I also am a political science major, so with the skills or the knowledge that I have, particularly to elections, I understand that I don't have to have a political party of the day. And I don't drive the agenda for the day. I need to position myself for a future, and a future that everyone is benefiting from, because at the end of the day, I have the power. And the power of the people only comes to life when the people, which is now your 17-year-old who's going to be 18 years old next year, in a position to take up a vote, understands that without their involvement within the electoral process, they're going to have to bear the brunt of exactly what it is that is going to come out. And it also positions them in a space where they need to understand that it's because of the elections, or not only because of the elections, that their voices get heard at the end of the day. Because even if you take it in the digital space, on whatever platform, to say, I am not happy, he is not my president, right? It serves no justice, and it serves no one to say that in a digital platform, because at the end of the day, your vote does matter. And when you vote, you also put out your opinion that is strengthened by other people's opinions who are very closely related to what is your opinion. And then this opinion comes out to be either an elected president or a stepping down president. This then also translates to allowing new leadership. And the way we as young people view other young people's leadership right now, I know is not entirely to say it's the best, because I was expecting, with the current optimism of the potential candidates for presidency, especially the young ones, we as young people would also rally behind our fellow young people. But it's not the case. I still feel that very many of us are still with the traditional norms of what we've been brought up. Like Simon said, how we've been brought up, the cultural and tribal division still plays a role. But instead of us looking deep into exactly what it is we want within a leader, and how that leader is likely to address us in our visions and our future. Because I know that there's the many different agreements, 2063, 2030, but then do those agreements and plans actually speak to us as young people and our needs? Because come 2023, believe me, we're talking about AI right now, but we're going to be having dancing robots and all these things in technology. We're going to probably have other aspects that we need to focus on that are deemed as necessary. Because if you also look at the depression rates, it's the young people who are depressed, who are committing suicide, who are really not finding that space or that point where they need to express themselves, because there's very, very little room for us to do that to the next person. Either you're mocked or you're just not taken seriously. So we do need to educate our young people, irrespective of how young they are. I had social studies many years ago, but I know that when it comes to voting, I should vote for what I believe is relevant, not entirely AI powered or based on the opinion of my dad or my mom, but it's something that I should believe will strengthen me. And also it's kind of what pushes the motivation of a person to persevere through things and work diligently towards a particular thing at the end of the day.
That was on youth participation. But before we close it off, Miss Susie, okay, so we speak about what we can do to educate the youth. We talk about what the government can do for the youth. But my question is, what are we as the youth? What do you feel we could improve on ourselves? What do you feel, okay, no, in this area, when it comes to youth participation in the political realm or whatever, what do you feel we are lacking in as the youth?
Yeah, I
Something
think
we could improve.
I don't know. I think that for me, we need to work on our ability to motivate ourselves, right? But not motivation in the way of like, yeah, let's go, whatever, but real informed motivation. I think right now the political apathy that we're seeing in young people is also driven by the fact that we are uninformed. And as young people, we are a generation of very politically vocal people. You know, we stand on the shoulders of ancestors who fought colonialism, and we are the first generation really after colonialism, right? So we still believe that political action can do stuff, and we do show it because we talk a lot
Very vocal about
on the
it, yes.
Twitter or even in the streets. We are talking about politics. But I think we need to take it a step further, right? It's one thing to open the newspaper, read an article and say, oh my goodness, I'm so distraught by the state of the world right now. Look at this and this and this happening. That's one thing. But what we need to do is turn that action into something else. And I think that comes from self-education, right? And as we're going into the elections next year, and this is also something I spoke about at the conference, we need to educate ourselves on the political options out there, right? There are so many parties, like you said. What do these parties offer? What is their stance on LGBTQ rights, on climate change, on governance, on AI, on economics, on job creation? We need to know these things so that we can be informed voters, so we can be informed political actors, you know, not only in being politicians, but also in furthering the political agenda as citizens. So I think that's really the one thing that I would like to see a change in, just our ability to move past anger, right? Anger is one propelling force, but we need to turn the anger into something tangible, and I think we do that through education.
I think that was a very valid point. Not that all your points were invalid, but feathering the political agenda. Is this thing still valid? Is what I'm saying valid without me being there? Can I deassociate myself from it and it not be, oh, it's Pinky's idea, but it be just the agenda itself? That was very beautiful. Now we're going to close it off by speaking about green hydrogen and the money from it. Now I've gone on Twitter, I've gone on Instagram, and I've seen so many jokes about green hydrogen is not ours, it's for the Saudi, it's for the Chinese, we barely have a part in it. I actually heard a friend saying, oh no, Saudi Arabian people are already here, I just saw them at the airplane, and I thought it was so funny. But now they're giving out scholarships, they are having research invites for fuel change, and they are asking people, no, submit your project and what you think could improve it. And they're having public lectures at Hilton Hotel, asking people to pay for their accommodation and all these things. So do you feel like they're now pushing these things to blind us from, oh, we have a small percentage in this green hydrogen project? Because I've heard so many things, and I speak under correction when I say I've heard so many things, but in line with social responsibility and all these things that they're offering, which genuinely benefits the youth. What do you think about the green hydrogen project?
Look, I think that green hydrogen is Namibia's future, right?
Okay.
It's the truth, because that's what we are funneling a lot of our resources and our energy into right now. And the nature of international resource projects is that they are often marred with a lot of conflicts. Just in, for example, if it's an agreement between Namibia and Germany, the different types of stakeholders and resources that the different countries are bringing to it will make it a very sticky situation, right? And that's why there's this whole conversation about what is our stake in it, what is the percentage, what. And that is something that we as the public have limited control over, right? Because yes, we can come together as a community and say we want to see the agreement that was signed and we want to make sure that Namibia is a greater stake. But at the end of the day, that's something that's not in our hands, right? But what is in our hands is these opportunities that you're talking
and making
about.
the most of them.
Exactly. The scholarships, the opportunity for us to fine-tune our businesses and fine-tune our own skills to fit in this new and soon to be booming industry is in our hands. So when it comes to young people and when it comes to the social responsibility stake of green hydrogen, I have two things to say. The first thing is that we should not stop making sure that Namibians have the most to benefit from this green hydrogen project. And we can do that through a lot of political means, right? Reaching out to our representatives, reaching out to these formal bodies. That's the first thing. Make sure that it's ours, right? And the second thing is the things that we do have access to,
Make the most of
them
it.
to make. Yes.
Make the most of it.
Because at the end of the day, you only have power over certain types of things, but the things that you have power over, you can utilize them to the best of your abilities. So if we say green hydrogen is the future, make sure that you are future facing.
And you're facing the future together with them, making sure you are staying on top of those opportunities. Because like she mentioned, those things that you don't have control over, at the end of the day, it's whatever. But the ones that you do, make sure you have 100% control over it. Ms. Anna, green hydrogen, social responsibility, how much you are benefiting from them, the internet society. What is your take on it?
One thing is when it comes to the green hydrogen issue.
Issue.
No, I'm gonna say issue because there's so many conflicting stories, and one really can't relate. So as much as one would want to really position in the beginning, green hydrogen was the hush thing, you understand? So when it came to light, it was really evident that okay, we were skeptic. There was skepticism relating to the expertise, local expertise, as to and how best the country will benefit from it, because it's a foreign concept. And then when you Google green hydrogen projects, Namibia, stroke 2023, it's a whole combobulation of the truth and fiction. So I think because of this misinformation that is going on, it's also very difficult for young people to properly position themselves, because as much as the scholarships sound nice, as much as the paying for the accommodation at the Hilton sounds nice, I think that the youth is actually in a way apprehensive whether to dip their toes in and whether we're just the guinea pigs. You understand? So it sounds all and well. We really want to be able to position ourselves as an institution as well, and see how best we would want to educate and advocate for what green hydrogen has to do with the internet and many of the advocacy that we do. But we'd rather go at it at a slower pace opposed to how fast green hydrogen conversations are going.
I think the question is, are we actually getting a piece of the pie, or are we just getting crumbs? The scholarships and these projects that are being implemented, is it a piece of the pie? Are we actually eating to get fed, or are we just getting the crumbs that are on the floor?
It's a very good question. I might not have the answer for it right now.
Nobody will have the answer for it.
Because, like I said, there's so much misinformation and disinformation. The other day I was looking at, I was watching Good Morning Namibia, and there was an award for women in mining. And I'm like, well, I mean, this is something good that would actually allow many young women and girls to take up a career in mining. Amidst everything that else that is happening, because you'd want to have a career change as well, because you'd be hitting a pinnacle in your career knowing that you'd be the first Namibian woman to take on a green hydrogen project. So, and these women were actually getting recognized. So it's a matter of, like Susie said, position yourself where you feel confident
Uh-huh.
that this is
And comfortable.
definitely something that I need to take. But also look at the bigger picture at the end of the day. You don't want to be a green hydrogen expert where the pilot was in Namibia and now you have to fly all the way or live in Saudi Arabia and not know exactly what it is that you're going for. But yeah, the skepticism is there. Hopefully we will be in the know of exactly what is the benefit to the country and the way forward for the rest of the sector.
The way forward. Mr. Sai, we've spoken about taking full advantage of the things that you can actually change. Because the things that you have knowledge to, because there's a lot of things that we are not being told about. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of things that we don't have control over. But the ones that we do have control over, we have to take charge. What is your take on green hydrogen?
I think my take is our government or the stakeholders and everybody, they really need to be on 100% accountability, transparency. Because
Transparency.
we are still a traumatized nation. We are healing from fish rot. So
Yes, we are.
so we are healing from fish rot and so many other financial and resource mismanagement. So it's just like you have your partner that just did something terrible. You won't just come home and honey cook for me and jump in the kitchen. It must really take a lot of accountability. So for us healing from all this money laundering, fish rot, and so many scandals, for us to see green hydrogen, it might really be like it's 100% for us. But I'm like, after recovering from all this, we'll be like, is it another hydrogen rot? Or is it another what rot again? So, which I strongly believe it's for the benefit of us. That's now where the civic education comes in. If it's for us, they must not tell us when the food is ready. We don't want to be surprised. We want every small ingredient of the green hydrogen. We don't want to be
We want
surprised.
to be part of the process.
We ordered a streetwise 2. We are getting a streetwise 1 with or a meal that we not order. So we need to have consultations, hearings, just in front of the camera,
Updates.
interviews, updates. How can the youth participate? Because, like you said, we have no control over it. But then you find the youth, we want to really exercise our muscles where we don't. Then we like, democracy doesn't work for us. But I'm like, if this mic is all you can hold on to it. Don't exercise your rights in a wrongful way. So for me, I think it's a 50-50. It's a 50-50, like Anna said. It's a 50-50 chance. Green hydrogen can be the future, or green hydrogen can be another imagination. I'm like, we have experience, and we are talking from experiences of where we have been in Namibia. And we can see the scholarships, like you said. Is it the breadcrumb? Like, we might
Is
say,
it
like,
breadcrumbs?
someone can be like, people were given 100 million. But when we see those numbers, people are getting happy.
We get
We
excited.
get happy, but do you know what is the actual, what is in the package, what is in the box? So I think going forward, we just need transparency, and people need to be told, and like Anna said, consulting the expertise, them coming down to everybody. Like, because green hydrogen has become like, it's just one side that, go into the villages right now, ask people about green hydrogen. They'll ask you, what are you talking about? So I think going forward, we really need to make this exercising. We need to predict what is the long term. How much are we investing in this? What is the profit? If we come at a time like but we are losing this, we have to export too many people outside, or it's not profitable for us, then we can maybe make some adjustments. But for me, really, to look at in terms of like asking the Namibian youth of how can it benefit them, and knowing how our government is and how everything is. So I really think we really need to come on the drawing board to really, we don't need to negotiate. I think Namibians, we like to negotiate as a charity organization. We need to negotiate as partners. When we go on the green hydrogen table, we must not beg. We must not come from a point of weakness. We need to have our strength. And if our partners do not appreciate what we bring on the table, unfortunately, whatever projects it is to be, we have to say, we cannot take green hydrogen if it's coming at the expense of disrespecting our democracy, our values, our beliefs,
people.
our standards, and our people. We are still recovering from 33 years of independence where most of our people have been left out. So if there's ever a project that doesn't speak to the need of Namibians and only benefits a certain individuals, I will really say that project is worth considering for a second opinion. Yeah.
Like Master Simon said, we are still a recovering nation. And yes, we are. We are right to be skeptical about big projects like this that just bombard out of nowhere, because green hydrogen was not in the plan.
Exactly.
When you look at the 2023, the 2030 plan, or
Or
it
even
was
NDP4.
it was
Even in the budget.
never
Even in
in
the
the
budget,
plan.
it was
Never
It
there.
just came-
So now when it comes out of the blue, we are right to be skeptical about
Exactly.
it, because is it the big dogs sitting on top that are eventually gonna have to be eating all the money, and then we get the breadcrumbs? I mean, we are right to be skeptical, because this has been happening time and time again, and we are right to be traumatized. We are still a healing nation. We are still a healing nation. But that, of course, does bring us to the end of the vodcast for the day. We are joined in studio by lovely Miss Susie. Miss Susie, your goodbyes.
Goodbye, young people. I think we are a powerful generation. Let's not forget that.
Master Simon?
I would say it's really where there's life, there's hope. I know we have missed 33 years, but if we can stand together, nothing and no one can stop what a united nation can achieve, especially when the powerful youth come together. So I'm calling on the youth to stand together and for us to make the rightful decisions that are going to change our lives forever. Yeah.
Miss Anna?
Let's not forget about the digital world, guys. The internet is for everyone, and of course we need to advocate for it. I think advocacy is the only thing that we can do when it's something that we really want to, there's something that we want to achieve. And of course, youth participation and engagement is very important. Next year is electoral year. I pray we do not have a Namibian gone in terms of the internet gone, especially with internet shutdowns on the continent. I'm concerned, but literacy.
It's a Quake.